Hi besties! Before you get comfortable, you need to know this story does not start where you think it does, because what looks like emotional fallout is actually the aftermath of quiet decisions, secret deals, and money that vanished faster than anyone expected. Stay with me because every minute from here forward reveals another layer, and by the end, you will see why nothing in this family is unraveling by accident. Hi besties! Welcome back. Because today we are stepping into a moment that changes everything. And if you blink, you will miss how quietly it began. Because nothing about this started loud. Nothing started with shouting or dramatic exits. It began with tension you could feel but not quite name. A hesitation, a pause, a look that lasted 1 second too long. And behind that moment, there was a plan forming. One that depended entirely on silence and trust that was already broken. What you are seeing now is not random, and it is not coincidence. It is the result of pressure building over time, money moving faster than honesty, and fear growing louder than accountability. Because when people believe they can control the narrative long enough, they stop preparing for consequences. And that is exactly where this story turns dark. Because this is not about feelings. This is about leverage. And when leverage is threatened, people do things they never thought they would do to protect themselves. It started when deals were being discussed behind the scenes, conversations that were not shared openly, choices that were made quietly, and the expectation that everyone involved would simply fall in line. But that expectation collapsed the moment someone said no. And that single word changed the entire dynamic, because no means resistance, and resistance means risk. And risk is the one thing people buried in financial pressure cannot afford. So what followed was not reconciliation, it was strategy. An attempt to close doors before questions could be asked. An attempt to finalize agreements before accountability could catch up. And all of this happened while the public was focused elsewhere, watching emotional storylines unfold, unaware that the real drama was happening on paper and contracts and transactions that told a very different story. Because while words can be edited, numbers cannot be spun, and timelines do not lie. Money was coming in large amounts from multiple directions. Property sales, equity payouts, years of accumulated value finally being converted into cash. And on the surface, that should have meant relief, stability, and security. But instead, it created urgency, because money that arrives quickly can disappear even faster when there's no plan to protect it. And that is where things began to unravel, because instead of building a foundation, the money became fuel for spending. And when the spending outpaced the income, panic quietly set in. And panic always looks calm from the outside until it is too late. That is when control becomes the priority. Not fairness, not repair, not honesty. Control over information, control over perception, control over who speaks and who stays silent. And when silence cannot be guaranteed, conflict becomes inevitable. Because the truth does not need permission to surface. It only needs time and cracks, and both were already present. Relationships that once operated on shared goals were now fractured by suspicion and resentment, because when people feel used, they stop protecting the people who benefited. And that shift is visible in every interaction, every deflection, every accusation that seems to come out of nowhere, but is actually rooted in fear. Fear of exposure, fear of repayment, fear of the moment when someone finally asks, "Where did the money go?" And that question hangs heavy over everything now, because it has no easy answer. The money should still exist. It should be accessible. It should be available to settle disputes and restore balance. But instead, it is gone, absorbed into a lifestyle that requires constant cash flow to maintain. And that is a dangerous position to be in when your income depends on public interest and ongoing visibility. Because once the audience senses instability, once they feel the tension is real, they stop looking at the story as entertainment and start watching for the fallout. And that is where we are now, at the edge of something bigger than arguments, bigger than hurt feelings. This is about sustainability and the uncomfortable reality that some choices cannot be undone, no matter how carefully the narrative is managed. And as this pressure continues to build, every move becomes more revealing, every decision more desperate. Because when there is nothing left to hide behind, the truth has a way of stepping forward on its own. And when it does not whisper, it reshapes everything. As the pressure keeps mounting, the story does not slow down, it tightens. Because when people realize the past cannot be rewritten, they start trying to outrun it, and that never ends well. What you are watching now is not reaction, it is damage control, layered over years of decisions that were never meant to be revisited. And the reason it feels so intense is because the stakes are no longer emotional, they are structural. Everything rests on keeping the system running, keeping the income flowing, keeping the appearance intact. Because once that breaks, there is no safety net. And that fear seeps into every interaction, every conversation, every attempt to redirect blame. And suddenly, people who once worked together start questioning motives because trust erodes quickly when money disappears and explanations do not add up. And this is where the silence becomes the loudest part of the story, because the things not being said matter more than anything spoken out loud. Numbers do not lie, timelines do not bend, and financial patterns repeat themselves, especially when spending becomes habitual and accountability is delayed. The cycle is always the same: a surge of confidence followed by quiet stress, then urgent borrowing, and finally justification. And that is exactly the stage we are in now, where borrowing is framed as strategy and concern is dismissed as jealousy or misunderstanding. But beneath that surface is a reality that cannot be ignored, because borrowing against stability means stability no longer exists. And that realization changes everything. Because once the foundation is compromised, every relationship built on top of it begins to shake. People who once stayed quiet begin to distance themselves. Questions that were once brushed aside start resurfacing, and the narrative that once felt controlled starts slipping through the cracks. Because the truth does not need agreement, it only needs exposure. And exposure happens naturally when actions and words stop aligning, and the audience senses that disconnect immediately, because they are not just watching what is being said, they are watching what is being avoided. And avoidance tells its own story, one of urgency, one of fear, one of someone trying to keep plates spinning long enough to get through the next moment without addressing the bigger picture. But the bigger picture is unavoidable, because long-term commitments require long-term resources. And when those resources are gone, pressure replaces comfort, and control replaces connection. And that shift is visible in the way conversations unfold, in the way responsibility is deflected, in the way blame is reassigned to anyone who asks the wrong question at the wrong time. Because questions are dangerous when the answers expose vulnerability, and vulnerability is the one thing that cannot be afforded. When everything depends on appearing unshaken, and the reason this matters so much now is because time is no longer on their side. Every month adds weight. Every obligation adds strain, and every attempt to silence concern only amplifies it, because silence creates space for speculation, and speculation fills the gaps left by missing transparency. And that is how narratives collapse, not through confrontation, but through erosion, piece by piece, until there is nothing left holding them together. And what makes this moment so compelling is that we are watching that erosion happen in real time, through subtle shifts, through defensive reactions, through choices that feel rushed, and explanations that feel incomplete. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, because the pattern becomes clear: spending without restraint, borrowing without pause, and hoping the future will somehow cover the cost of the present. But hope is not a plan, and visibility is not guaranteed. And when the spotlight dims, the bills do not. And that is the reality closing in now. A reality where the past is catching up faster than expected. And the story that was once carefully curated is starting to tell itself, whether anyone wants it to or not. Because at the end of the day, accountability does not disappear, it only waits. And the longer it waits, the louder it arrives. So if you were wondering why the tension feels different now, it's because this is no longer about feelings or past arguments. It's about consequences that cannot be edited out or ignored. The choices made in silence are finally demanding answers, and what happens next will not depend on words, but on reality. And once reality steps in, there is no turning back. Thanks for watching, besties, and stay tuned because this story is far from over.